Geometry 1, Chapter 2 Test, Topic 7. Be able to find missing angles based on linear pairs and vertical angles. Now a couple of things you need to know here. Linear pairs are lines that together, a pair, two angles, make a straight line, and because they make a straight line or a straight angle, they're going to add up to 180 degrees. So for linear pair, the measures add to 180 degrees. Vertical angles, that's when you're going to see some sort of an X in your picture. They do need to be two lines making the X. And here, vertical angles, often abbreviated VA, are congruent. So if you have vertical angles, they are automatically congruent. So the first picture, find the missing angle measure. Well, here, we know that this angle is 60, this is angle 1, we're looking for the measure of angle 1. That's our question. And we need to look at the picture. Is this a linear pair or is it a vertical angle? Well, in order for it to be vertical angles, we would need to see an X, and I just don't see an X here. It actually kind of almost looks like a Y if you turn your head sideways. So definitely aren't any vertical angles. A question becomes, is it a linear pair? And what I see right here is a line right through the picture. And I see above the line two angles, angle 1 and angle 60, that make that straight line together. So what that means is that 1 and 60 are a linear pair. Two angles, they share a side, and together they make a straight line. They make a straight angle. So the two angles, measures have to add to 180 degrees. So the measure of angle 1 plus the 60 has to equal 180. And here you can solve, subtract 60 from both sides, and you get the measure of angle 1 equals 120 degrees. The measure of angle 1 is 120 degrees because 120 plus 60 is 180, which is what a linear pair needs to add to. Now the second picture, find the missing angle measures. Here we have three angles. We have angle 1, angle 2, and angle 3, and we have a 100 degrees. So a couple of different things are going on here. The first thing I see is that we have an X right here down the middle. And what that means is that we have some vertical angles. Angle 100 is opposite in the X, it's across in the X from angle 2, which means angle 2 is going to be congruent to angle 100. Since they're congruent, what that means is the measure of angle 2 must be 100 degrees. What this also tells me is that angle 1 is opposite angle 3 in the X, which means angle 1 and angle 3 are going to be the same. If we can find one of them, we can find both of them. So angle 2 is 100 degrees. And I typically, once I find an angle, like to write it in my picture so that I could, if I wanted, use it to find some other information. Now, without knowing exactly what angle 1 is, we can't say what angle 3 is. We have to find one of those two angles. And you have a couple of options here, but given that we're using linear pairs and vertical angles, we used vertical angles already. I'm going to look for a linear pair. Two angles that share a side that together make a straight line. So I see one right here. A straight line right through the middle. And up here, these two angles, the 100 and angle 1, are a linear pair. Together, they make the straight line, and they share a side. So what that means is that the measure of angle 1 plus the 100 degrees has to equal 180. It's always a good idea to show this work somewhere on your paper, just in case you subtract wrong. I know no one thinks it'll happen to them until it actually does. So show me the work for 180 minus 100. The measure of angle 1 would then equal 80. Now make sure when you write your final answer you do have the degree symbols on it. You don't need to keep them in the equation per se, but make sure by the time you get to your answer you do have the 80 degrees. So that means this angle here is 80 degrees, angle 1. But remember, what did we say about 1 and 3? They were opposite one another in the x, which means they're vertical angles. So the measure of angle 3 also has to be 80 degrees because vertical angles are congruent.